Hello, people. Welcome to the very first episode of Weird Confessions Uganda. Now, have you been looking for something unfiltered, something unconventional? I think this is the right place for you. Now, guess what? We started with something that is, I suspect, so many people's guilty pleasure. At least, no, you're not forcing me to confess if it's mine. We're talking about marijuana. You have a lot of names for this. The cool kids, if you've been consuming all sorts of like American shows, well, it's Mary Jane, but it goes by, like many names, right? Yeah, but in Uganda, everyone just call it Njaga. I mean, please, that's but that's drugs.
Yeah, but
that's all sorts of drugs.
That is what my granny would call it.
Right?
Yeah, but the people that actually consume it have some cool names for it.
Tell me.
Some, grass. That's one of them. But the ones that are in the legal lines call it bang, cannabis, marijuana, something like that. But
See?
the people that actually consume it have other cool names for it.
But guess what my name is? Guys, I'm Soita and I'll be taking you through this podcast. And I hope that this is just the beginning of an otherwise awesome journey with you. And with me in the studio is Don. Don and I are quite close. I call him Donati, but do not dare call him that. Don, it's really nice to have you.
And it's a pleasure being here.
Tell us about yourself.
Thank you for inviting me to this rare but unique occasion. I am, as regards to this subject, I am an enthusiast. I'd like to call myself an enthusiast because in this country, weed is illegal.
Wait, are you an enthusiast, as in smoker, trader, for weed?
Are you asking me to confess?
No, but it would be a weird confession. What do you think?
Let's just talk about the subject and take persons out of it.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so weed has been consumed in this country for quite a long time. It is a pleasure people enjoy. It is a medicine. It is so many things to so many people differently. And people are using this drug and it has different social aspects to it. And it is illegal. So we talk about it in that context, in that different people use it for different purposes. It is a plant that has immense benefits for humanity. But for reasons, historic reasons, political reasons, it is an illegal substance in Uganda. So we shall consider it in that aspect.
And why is it that more often than not, drugs that have been predominant, I don't want to say predominantly, because I think that medicinal use for marijuana is quite widespread. But why is it that states and governments more often than not restrict the use of recreational drugs?
Well,
is there utility to this?
Well, there is some history to the drug because the United Nations has some conventions where it makes the drug illegal, but it didn't just happen like that. In America, there was this guy, I forget his name. He was very, very opposed to the growing of marijuana. They called it marijuana because the Mexicans were using it, the artists were using it, the people who are like unconventional, quote unquote unconventional, blacks and communities that were marginalized were using the drug for various purposes. But it was associated with artists. And then came the prison system in America. The prison system in America is such that the more people you incarcerate in prisons, the more private prison makes money. Now, those political things drove the need to what was hemp. Hemp had other uses. Hemp
is there a difference between hemp and marijuana?
There is, because hemp is a relative of sativa, the cousin in the same family. They are cousins in the same family. But
plant?
Yes, cannabis plant. And hemp is not psychoactive. You cannot smoke it and get high. Or you cannot, but it has other uses, like it's used for fiber. And that's how, in fact, it got to America. Then, because they needed to use it for other substances, they were other cotton manufacturers, that whole industrial complex pushed for the illegalization of weed. It was made illegal. It was never it was made illegal. And the British brought here the acts and the conventions, and that's how in Uganda we just copy and paste some of these battles that were never our own. But that's how we get weed illegal, because it was classified as a class 1 drug.
So us having marijuana use illegal is mostly a remnant of a colonial law.
Yeah, just like we pick up other laws. Like there's so many things that shouldn't be illegal that are illegal just because as we're transplanting other laws and codes to ours, we don't do the hard job of, doing research and finding out why should this plant be, why, for example, should people be allowed to take something as toxic as alcohol and then they don't take weed.
That reminds me, I think America had what was called the Prohibition era, sometime between 1920 to 1930, where the US government actually banned producing, manufacturing, and distribution, and even consuming of alcohol, all alcoholic drinks. And I think the people who are behind the prohibition of alcohol were actually religious organizations and leaders, because they said the more someone takes alcohol, the more they're likely to be immoral, right? I mean, there is some truth to ingestion of drugs, especially in a recreational sense, right? But how much of that is actually social bias from the moralists of the day?
A lot of it is just social bias, because unless you have statistics upon which you're relying to decriminalize something, it is mostly going to be driven by social sentiments. What the people of the time feel like is, for example, in Uganda, the people that usually are associated with the taking of weed are like the Rastafarians, the guys you call Bemuita Abayai.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to use that language. But the effects on the body are still, the benefits on the body are still there, but the class that is usually associated with that,
the social class,
gives it a bad name, quote unquote a bad name.
So you're saying that it's because predominantly the people that are seen, because you see even rich people, upper class, they actually do use marijuana for recreational purposes. But the people that are forming the social image, the biased social image, are those that like you've described. Yes. It's the
according to the bus. According to the bus, they say so and so is they are known weed users, and that's the class that has been associated with it.
I mean, we've seen this with Bobby Wine.
Yeah.
Someone who has risen to prominence in political circles, and he is an inspiration to so many. But some of the criticism that he gets is that, this is a drug user, this is a weed smoker. It's some sort of like insult, something that should prevent someone from being taking up an acceptable position in society.
Well, I think a person, I don't know if I'm just going to be prejudiced right now and say that a person that would call someone like Bobby Wine an underachiever because they took weed at some point,
or they still, whatever, even if they still did,
is uninitiated. They don't know what they are talking about. People like Barack Obama has confessed.
Exactly.
On point
we actually have pics, right?
He has said,
and he has never looked more handsome. But that's
the guy has taken
point.
weed at some point in his life, and he doesn't give it a bad rap. You have Bobby Wine, who is now. I may not support him, may or may not, but I cannot call him one name or another because he has taken weed in the past. I mean, like, you just don't know what you're talking about. Probably the person he is right now is because at some point he took weed. Because some of you were about to talk to a psychologist, I guess, and they will tell you that there are various aspects of your mind that may never have been uncovered, or experiences of life that you may never have enjoyed unless you had access to some of these things that change your mental perspective. And I think weed does that for a lot of people. So it is because we have that social bad name, kind of like bayaye banywe njai. Someone says it like that, it comes off crude and like but there are benefits to taking some of these drugs, and we should assess the benefits according to the evidence that is provided. Like if you make a study and find out, okay, people that take this and are not in that social class, because there are certain things that happen to people because they belong to a certain social class, and because they also take this weed, you misattribute. You say, oh, so because people who put on rugs also happen to steal, so let me associate this to, and there's no
so it's
no
a
link.
wrong correlation.
You get the whole population.
Is this what is called the causation?
Causation does not equal correlation, I believe. So let statistics and science guide us in determining what are the benefits of these plants, and then we shall go with that as a matter of fact. Like you're talking from a statistical perspective, not just what the social class or culture is throwing out. I think then we'll have you would. I think you would be justified if you pointed to a couple of people who science has said when they took this plant, they became such and such. But we have examples of distinguished human beings, role models, that have taken this plant and have gone on to become great achievers and role models. So how would you decide this is?
I think that it's both a good and bad thing that for many of us in countries where marijuana, weed is still illegal, it hasn't been legalized, so much of what we know or see is what we see with celebrities. Now, celebrities can make anything look cool, from alcohol to drugs and all that. And some of the drugs include marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever, earlier on, before we started the podcast, I think I was telling you guys that whenever I hear Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg's Young, Wild and Free, the first thing I think about is weed. Yeah. Because these guys are like the social...
The image out there.
Yes. And they seem to always be like really enjoying it and looking really, really cool. And I think you listen to podcasts a lot, right? I don't know if you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I do. But even if you don't, I think you've seen the memes that were going out after Elon Musk was hosted.
Yes.
Where he's like... he's just in a puff of smoke and he has this face about him and it looked pretty cool, you know?
Yeah.
And you say, this is a billionaire. These are like big people out there that are smoking weed like outright, openly. And it brings me to the question. You've been saying that most of the stigma is actually directed towards poor people in real life. So there is that disconnect, right?
Sure.
In reality, in countries like ours, and I suspect all around the world, in America, the people that are incarcerated because of
very minor quantities of weed they get you, and there is a reason to that too.
There is a reason to that. So social class is a very big factor. But apart from that, we've seen that when it comes to legalization, big corporations, big pharmaceutical, big pharma, which many people, I don't want to even use that term because I'm going to start sounding like a conspiracy theorist. But big pharma is actually a term. Yes. So big pharma out there is actually reaping big when it comes to legalization. Yes. Billions of money worth of industry right now in countries where it's been legalized for medicinal use. But here in Uganda, I think we in the news for the past like 2 years, in 2018, we got to know about this Israeli farm that it's called Together Farm, something like that. It had actually, it reported in a newspaper in Israel that it had secured land here in Uganda to start growing marijuana. Now that was a shock for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, like, you can't buy weed openly. People's farms are burned down by police. And suddenly we get to know that actually government is... given a license to this farm to start growing weed.
They are licensing.
Exactly. So
farms.
that was then it gave up like a conversation, started a conversation in Uganda about how do we grow marijuana for medicinal use. So can you tell us, as someone who is an enthusiast, about this, what do you think about this generally?
Well, you have raised so many points. Let me just pick out one thread. One, the economic part of this whole thing. It is completely unfortunate that a small group of people are going to cordon off this industry and reap the benefits of such an emerging huge global movement, because most of the countries that are actually legalizing are realizing both social and economic benefits. First of all, the humongous amounts of taxes that are being lost by countries which are not actually legalizing. By simply
Because
not
it's an
legalizing,
illicit trade, but it's worth hundreds of billions of dollars anyway.
pharmaceutical companies are going to reap big. And Uganda has what they call a competitive advantage. Because in other countries where big pharma has to invest heavily in resources, in inputs of how to grow the crop, Uganda simply, you just throw seeds on the ground and they'll give you a healthy plant. Simply by being situated on the equator and having this rainfall, the plants thrive and grow and they are richer and they are medicinal. The pharmaceutical companies know this. They bring this money and come here and cordon it off. And sleeping, I don't know what to call a government that is not seeing opportunities that can help its people. I may call a derogatory term, but I mean, someone should wake up and say, let's make this opportunity available. Let's have the skills go to as many people as possible so that we can actually sell. Don't allow people to just come here and invest and make a small part somewhere, cordon it off, and reap all the benefits. You're not looking towards enriching your people, because you can still, I can tell you that the money, this experiment has been run in these countries for a very long time, and they are realizing that, getting police and financing police to chase all these people you call drug dealers.
But are they even chasing them? Because I don't know if you watched Solomon Saranja's documentary.
I did. He
The Dark
did
Side of
quite a nice
right?
expose.
Exactly. And in that expose, he actually shows, there was undercover reporting that showed that drug dealers, their biggest suppliers were actually the police, and they get some of these drugs from the aviation police, then distributes them, after arresting the drug dealers coming into the country. Then later
the drugs make it to the market.
Yes. Yeah, but remember, still, like you said, the government cannot realize any benefit from this because they are unable to tax what is an illicit trade, right?
Exactly. So there are...
And it's not that they are not aware of it. If your whole police as an institution is actually working with drug dealers but undercover.
Yeah, that's what...
How is the government actually benefiting
lamentable.
from this?
That is the situation that is lamentable. Like, if you don't legalize this, you miss out on all these other revenue-making opportunities, but you also don't make the situation any better. Why? Because the cost of actually policing and staying in that backward regime of just chasing people you call drug addicts and whatever is more costly.
The hypocrisy is costly.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is costly, exactly. So what happens? You must leverage the opportunity that has availed itself, legalize this, and put money in trying to make sure that this is grown in the right way. The taxes are collected from these people that are growing, and the benefits are actually realized. You don't listen to the moralists. And these moralists are actually moving away from that regime, because the countries that brought here the laws are all legalizing.
Yes.
South Africa has been the first one to make this move on this continent, and that's a welcome move. I don't know, I haven't looked into the details of what is happening in Rwanda. I hear rumors that they are also moving towards that direction. And once they do, and everybody is on board, they will be the first. You see, in markets, the one that goes there first reaps the benefits. So if you just lag here and keep saying this is a bad thing for our people, it's not going to work. You're going to lose. But
it's happening anyways.
And if all these neighbors are also growing and legalizing, you'll basically lose out, because you'll still hear we have porous borders. plants will come in.
Okay, but there is something I don't understand. Last question on this. If at all legalizing is going to only potentially, mostly be advantageous to the capitalist system still, because it's the one that's going to be reaping big when it's being legalized, how does legalization actually help that common person? Because weed has been moving anyways.
Yes.
People have been making a living out of it anyways. But now with legalization, it's states and big corporations that will be reaping even bigger. How does a person like you, Don, and someone who is of even a lower social class than you benefit from this?
So this is how you make this. At some point, these drugs are being made by pharmaceuticals, and they are packaging them and making this money. But if this crop is taken out of the hands of, it's essentially democratized.
Is it?
If you democratize the crop, let me just get to you this. If you democratize this crop, this conversation will definitely be on the table. People who are concerned about the disadvantages of the crop will join the conversation and say,
but we have to have that conversation now, Don.
Yes.
Because if you've had the conversation of legalizing, why can't we have
if
it
it's
illegal,
illegal,
for the common person? If
it is illegal, as it is in Uganda, in only free spaces like this podcast, that's where you get those conversations. If you start it at your local community, they will say, we're not interested. But if it's legalized, it becomes everybody's concern to have that conversation. Do I allow my children to have access to it? What are the benefits? How do I look at a person who is actually taking this? The conversation opens automatically, and you must bring it on the table and see how to handle it. Everyone will be invited to the table of that discussion, and we'll see how to handle. But you can't do anything now. It's illegal.
Okay, so you do say that we have to have the conversation can be had when legalizing has been realized.
Yes.
I think that in Uganda, it's to me honestly, it's still some state of confusion. The fact that the NDA, National Drug Authority, I think some time back put out a call to people who are interested in, farming marijuana or something like this. You will tell me more about that. So this state of confusion, really, like how do we go forward from this? How do we go forward from a few people who are able to, how do we make this a better thing for everyone, and not just particularly everyone, but those who are able and those who have been in this business, how do they continue benefiting from this?
The first thing to happen is to acknowledge that boat has sailed. On most shores in most countries, that boat has sailed. Countries are making preparations on how to benefit from this. Okay? We have copied bad rules before, and we can amend them to make better rules. So it's not like we are in the dark. There are some people to learn from.
New Zealand had a referendum recently.
Yes.
And I think they voted for legalizing euthanasia.
Yes.
But the vote was really down for legalizing marijuana.
But on this one...
And New Zealand is more socially, progressive
yes.
than Uganda.
On this
Are
one...
we ready to have this conversation? Because I kid you not, religious leaders, time of their lives, they will not allow this.
Yes, that's why I'm telling you that the role of leadership, just like the role of being a head of a family, is for you to make decisions that are a step ahead of the people that you lead.
How do you... I mean, we have many groups of people who have a political power, and you cannot underestimate the political power of religious leaders in this country.
I'm not underestimating it. I'm just saying that the benefits of being on this boat, on the legalization boat, on reaping the benefits of what we can get out of growing this crop in whatever form it may be from government, are way better than just sitting idly and doing nothing. If the NDA can put out those that can afford be on board, but they should also understand that legalizing this for the masses is always a better thing, because most people are going to gain skills in cultivation. They're going to gain skills in marketing. You're going to cop out a market share of this crop, and other benefits will simply follow by you simply legalizing. So take baby steps, do what other nations are doing, there are so many things that we can learn from. And then we can follow that line. But we cannot even have the discussion.
What happens when religious leaders protest it?
They will, but as a state, the state has a role to look after the welfare of its people. And there are, in fact, so many things that have been legalized before, where religious leaders were vehement about. They were like, no, you can't. You cannot always look upon these moralists to be the guides for you. Not everything should be put under referendum, for example. Because no, supposing a community.
Don, your dictatorship is peeping.
No, it's not. I'm telling you that the head of a family, for example, if you know your finances are up to a certain point and you have to say, okay, you had some restrictions, say, my wife at home doesn't go to work. It is a rule that is arbitrary, that is there, it can be uplifted. And when it's uplifted, it benefits the family. So
dude, you really have to go to my wife doesn't go to work.
You as the head of the family can make that rule, even when the family is not happy with it, they will benefit from it.
But we are living in a more democratic society than you would like to admit.
What? Okay, we may have
democracy has its ills.
We may have
for example,
yes,
the ones that you just
we may have
pointed
differences in how to go about running the politics of a state. But I'm telling you that certain benefits for the state should make decisions even when the social political circumstances are not ready to adopt it. For example, it is a story, I don't know how true it is, that when electricity was coming to Uganda, there was a political movement that was majoritarian in this country that was saying we are not allowing these things. We are comfortable with our candles. People were...
What was the rationale for that?
Because electricity was such a new thing and, they did not know how to deal with it. They were like, no, let's just protest this thing. Don't bring electricity here. Don't quote me on this, but what I'm saying, my main point is that the role of the state is to make decisions that advance the benefits for its people. So sometimes you may have to take unpopular decisions for the benefit of the state, of the citizens of Uganda.
But you also realize that politicians are still part of our society, right?
Yes.
They are not... they come from our society.
I'm not lost.
How are they likely to view this in the way that you're viewing it without moralizing it?
We shall have this...
Because they are Christian too, or they are religious too.
We shall have this discussion another day, but there are certain other topics that are being held back simply because a majority feels like they are not ready to adopt them. Things like abortion, things like... We know that there are benefits. Let us trust in science. Let us trust in statistics. Let the experts guide us and then make decisions that benefit the country.
Speaking of science, medicinal use of marijuana, do you have any experience with Ugandans who are employing medicinal use of marijuana?
Yes. And
what's been your experience, if you've had any?
There are people who are using marijuana and getting benefits from it. There are people who already are underground doing some of these preparations and are treating patients. And patients are giving reviews and healing. But in absence,
what are they exactly
of a legal
treating?
Framework, cancers. They are treating people with...
What's the veracity of this? How true is it that
but how
marijuana...
How do you even get to the testing bit when people are not legalized? Where do you want them to do the trials and tests? All this is underground, and that opens a huge gap for charlatans, people who are ripping other people off and selling them fake products simply because there is no avenue where these things can be... The veracity and efficacy of the products that are being made can be tested. You cannot test these drugs or these concoctions for their efficacy if the concoctions are illegal. So the whole market is open for charlatans, people who just go and make whatever they make, and they say, somebody says I sell CBD, and the product doesn't have any CBD in it.
What is CBD?
Those are cannabinoids that actually...
yes. Elements found in cannabis.
Yes, there are extractions that are made that are fraudulent, and people are being fleeced because people will see what is happening in other countries and they will look for those products on the market. If they're not on the market, that's an opening for charlatans. And
because other
fraudsters.
countries are actually, in terms of medicinal use, they're using this to treat a cancer. Manage. I don't want to say treat because
Yes.
there is no, but you just like manage.
But the history of
cancer.
marijuana is replete with benefits. You cannot explore those benefits and exploit them unless the market is open for that exploration.
I see. Now, according to your prescription of where we go from here, it's that first we deal with the hardware. The hardware in this case are the laws,
Yes.
right? And then the software will sort itself out. The software in this case is social attitude. Where has that worked, and why would you choose hardware sorting out the software?
I do not think that if you went for a referendum in South Africa, you'll get people saying that it should be legalized. I'm not sure that you're
So people don't know what's good for them.
The crowd usually doesn't know what is good for them. So it should not be trusted in matters that need experts.
Which experts can we bring on board
Scientists.
to tell us? Apart from scientists?
NDA scientists,
Economists?
statisticians, economists, statisticians. The government has all these structures to make those informed decisions. Why do they leave them for villagers like us to make? Yes.
So, Don, someone like you is a villager. You're not a statistician. My God.
Yes.
Oh my God. A
statistician.
A statistician,
I
right?
thought it was me that couldn't speak. I'm
Oh
glad.
my God. Okay. A statistician?
Now a fraudster.
Why do I think that's not how it's said?
A fraudster would come up with a medicine that says this marijuana will help you speak well.
And I'll buy it. Especially if I've been a studio and I could not pronounce statistician.
Yes, they'll say they have this concoction from marijuana that helps you speak eloquently.
No. It's not statistician, dude.
No, it's not.
Statistician.
Oh,
Yes, it's oh my
I also
goodness.
need the
Okay, you know what? I
medicine.
give up because I'm
See-
just embarrassing myself.
So my appeal really would be that, the government recognizes that there is this boat that is on, that is a multi-trillion-dollar movement, and I'm sure they know because they have licensed companies to come and reap these benefits. Let them allow these benefits to trickle down to Ugandans, and that is starting with legalization. From legalization, you can go to systematization. How do we make systems of guarding against minors not taking the drug and all these other things?
Yes. Because as we wrap up, I think that what we've gotten from all this is that regulation of a drug
Any
is
substance.
the best way to go,
It's
other
the
than
best way to go.
criminalizing it.
Exactly.
Yeah?
You get the point.
Like especially somebody like me and you who take this do not have the dreads, do not but we are still bayaye.
But we are still all human.
Don't.
Need that.
Good people, that was our first episode from Weird Confessions Uganda, and we've had Don in the studio. Don has been, oh my God, more than amazing, and trust me, he's not half as amazing as the cool team behind this. I want you to know that this is just the beginning, and we would love for you to just keep engaging us. Now, how do you do that? Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Weird Confessions Uganda.
Give us feedback.
Yes, give us feedback. We would love for you to give you to receive feedback from you guys. And also, please do not forget to follow our Twitter account at UG_confesses. Now, underscore is that dash, but like the one that's down. Yeah. That one. I didn't know what it was called until recently. But hey, at UG_confesses. And do not forget, we have something else. We have a WhatsApp number. Now, this WhatsApp number is for you to send in voice notes. Voice notes about your experiences about marijuana and weed. It could be in Uganda, right? And it could be where you're watching from, where you're listening in from. And this number is +256 because this is Uganda, this is the code. So +256 788 43 24 20.
Yes.
Okay, we're waiting to hear from you. Please send us a voice note about your experiences with weed, even the social ones. Do you get out of your bedroom at 2 a.m. in the night to get that puff before you go back to bed? Please let us know. Do you think that you have some great opinions on legalizing marijuana around the world and in Uganda? Say, please let us know. And please do not forget to rate us. If you're listening in on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, please do not forget to rate us. Rating us goes a whole long way in helping me and the team reach you better and serve you better. Thank you so much. See you for episode 2. Don, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Soita here. See you next time.